Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how to use Microsoft Excel. In this particular one, I'm going to show you how to create a data table. In the next one, I'll show you how to add averages and standard deviations. And in the last one, I'll show you how to make a graph, a bar graph specifically with error bars. Okay, so general tour of Microsoft Excel. You'll see that each of the columns here are labeled with a letter, A, B, C, etc. And I can select a whole column by clicking at the top here on the letter, enabling me to select the whole column. Each row is labeled with a number, and again, I can do the same. I can select each row by clicking on the number itself. And this allows us to reference either a whole column, a whole row, or individual cells. So for instance, this one right here is cell B4. And you'll see how this is helpful later on when we start adding formulae in. Okay, well, let's start making the data table. I'm going to start down here just so I have a little bit of breathing room around me, and I'm going to put the independent variable up here. Obviously, you would put your actual independent variable there, um, not just the IV. And you'd put units here as well. Again, not the word unit. You'd actually put the units that you use for your independent variable. And then in this row, cell here, I'm going to put trial 1. And I could then come over here and type trial 2 and then trial 3 and trial 4, but I have a little trick for saving a little time here. When I click on the cell, you'll see that there's this little green box down in the bottom right-hand corner of that particular cell. And if I move my cursor onto it, you'll see that my cursor changes shape. If I now click and drag, you'll see that it is automatically changing it to trial 5, trial 6, trial 7, and so on. And so I can click as far over as I need to, and it will automatically copy and paste while changing the number of the trial. Microsoft Excel is pretty smart, but it's still a computer, so at its core, it's kind of stupid. So as long as you know some tricks, it will save you a lot of time. But don't assume it's going to do everything for you, though. Okay, so we want a dependent variable here as well, and so we put a dv here with units. And with our dependent variable, we'd actually want to merge this all the way over here. In other words, we want this header to extend over all of these cells. To select these cells, I can click and drag. That's one way to do it. Or another way is to click on the cell and then move over to the last one, hold Shift, and then push the button again. Now up here, we'll see that there's a Merge and Center button. When I click it, you'll see that it does exactly that. This is a menu ribbon. I don't know exactly what the name of it is. I think it's called a ribbon. If you click on these tabs up here, you'll see that this ribbon disappears. So if you ever lose it, just remember, click on these little menu options at the top here, and you'll get it back again. It can get confusing which menu people are talking about because you'll see that we have a view and an insert here, and yet at the top here we also have a view and an insert up here. So just be careful to be sure that you're looking at the right menu bar when people are giving you directions on how to use this program. Now let's imagine that our independent variable header here is a little longer than the column that we are given. In this case, you'll see that I already had a function enabled, and so what it did is it actually wrapped the text around and started on a new line. But it's not always going to do that. You see, oftentimes it's actually set to do exactly what you don't want it to do, which is where it will type and then it will bleed over into the next cell. Now, you don't want to do that. You want to make this whole header and these words fit into the column that you have it in. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. Number one is, as I mentioned, use the wrap text function. That is going to allow it to automatically move on to the next line and make the row bigger. The other way you can do it is to actually move right between the column letters, and you'll see that my cursor changed again to show us a double-headed arrow. When I click and drag, you'll see I can change the width of this cell to, or the whole column, I should say, to whatever I want. And if I just want it to make sure that it fits it perfectly, well then I can go here and double tap and it will automatically change it to the right width for me. Now at the minute this data table is looking kind of long and I'm worried that it's going to fit on my Word document, and so I'm actually going to wrap the text and then shrink it and use that option. Let's just see here. There you go. I don't love that this isn't centered and that these aren't centered and that they're not centered vertically as well. And so I'm actually going to select all of the cells here and I'm going to center and then center. Voila. So if I add in my straw lengths, I'm going to have a 10, a 15, a 20, and maybe even a 25. Now here in the dependent variable, I will change this to be, let's say the distance traveled by maybe a rocket. Distance traveled. Again, having the units up top here. Now let's imagine that I'm putting in my data here, and my first one maybe goes, 560.3 centimeters. And my next one maybe goes 680.5 centimeters. Now let's imagine my next one goes 705.0 centimeters. When I click return, look what happens. Oh, it got rid of that 0.0. Now, there's a problem with that, which is that 0.0 is actually really important because we want all of this data to have the same level of precision. We use the same tool. And so what I want to do is I want to select all of the cells that I'm going to have data in, including the average and the standard deviation, because they should have the same level of precision as all of my trials. Now what I can do is come up here to the formatting area, and you'll see that there's a couple of buttons here, one for increasing the number of decimals and one for decreasing the number of decimals. Well, which one should I push? Let's find out. Okay, that's made 2 decimals. Well, I'll just go back the other way, and now I have the 1 decimal, and it's all back where I need it to be. Notice that if I add in extra decimals onto the next data point and I hit return, it will automatically round it to the correct number, which is kind of handy. Last thing I want to do is I want to add borders around all of these cells. Yes, I have grid lines here, but you'll see that it's difficult to tell where a table begins and ends. And so I want to define that a little clearer. So I'm going to select all these cells for now and click on this button right here next to this box. And this brings down all of the various different border options. If I click all borders, you'll see that comes in there right there. You'll notice that I need one here as well, and I just click that and voila. Still not very clear, and so sometimes what I like to do is I like to go here to the view area and then click the grid lines checkbox so that I'm only seeing the borders that I've selected. Notice that in this cell right here I do not have borders around this edge and this edge because there is nothing in this cell, and so those borders are redundant. You should not have borders around this cell right here if there is nothing in it. Okay, that's all for now. And the next one I'll show you how to do averages and standard deviations, and so I'll go away and start putting in my data. Thanks very much. Bye.